This is a true life story. In the quiet suburbs of Randburg, where jacaranda trees lined the streets and the scent of roasted meat drifted through weekend air, lived a couple many admired, at least on the surface. Thandai and Mandla had been married for 6 years. From afar, theirs looked like a story of love and ambition. But behind closed doors, there was a crack in the foundation, one that had begun to grow wider with each passing month. Thandai was not the kind of woman who waited for life to hand her opportunities. She created them. Raised by a single mother in Soweto, she had clawed her way through adversity, putting herself through school, starting a small property business, and slowly building her empire. By the time she turned 34, she owned 3 rental houses and was developing a 4th. Mandla, once the golden boy of his township, had dreams of his own. But over time, bad investments, pride, and poor choices led to the collapse of his ventures. The more Thandai succeeded, the more he felt emasculated, diminished. He laughed at her jokes in public, called her "my lioness" to friends, but inside him brewed a toxic storm of envy and bitterness. The more she rose, the more he wanted her to fall. At first, the darkness crept in quietly. Passive insults, sarcastic jokes, ignored conversations. But soon, the quiet resentment grew close. He began scheming. It started with whispers. Mandla contacted a man he once knew from the East Rand, a rough type with a history of doing dirty work for the right price. Mandla didn't want it traced back to him, so he used someone else's number. The job? Shake her. Follow her. Scare her. But the plan failed. One evening as Thandai left a development site in Midrand, her driver, a no-nonsense woman named Nosifo, noticed they were being followed. Nosifo had once worked private security and wasn't easily spooked. With sharp turns and backtracking, she managed to lose the tail. But Thandai was shaken. She filed a report with the Santan police, but they were dismissive. Probably just tootsies, they said. These things happen. Still, she didn't feel safe. And something told her, instinct, spirit, that the danger wasn't from the streets. It was closer. Much closer. When she told Mandla about her experience, his reactions were suspicious, but she kept mute. She began to watch Mandla more closely. She noticed his cold silences, the strange late-night calls, the way he flinched every time she mentioned expanding her property portfolio. One night, she overheard him in the study, whispering on the phone. "She's still alive. You said it would be done." Her blood turned cold. That night, she didn't sleep. And she began to prepare. Then came the night of betrayal. A cold, windy Sunday in July. The power had gone out. Rain drummed heavily on the roof, and Thandai lay beside Mandla in silence. Just as she began to drift into sleep, she felt a shift in the mattress. Then, hands. Strong. Calloused. Around her neck. No hesitation. No words. Just raw, calculated force. She kicked, gasped, scratched, but he was determined. The room spun. Darkness crept in. Her lungs screamed. And then, she made a choice. Go limp. Let him think you're gone. She let her body go still. Mandla held her for another few seconds, making sure. Then, panting, he wrapped her body in a blanket, placed her in the boot of their car, and drove off into the night. He drove toward an abandoned construction site on the outskirts of Soweto, a forgotten shell of a building, half buried in dust and weeds. There, without ceremony, he dumped her body among the rubble, wiped his hands, and disappeared into the shadows. But Thandai wasn't dead. Hours passed before she dared move. Her throat burned. Her limbs ached. But her spirit was fierce. Crawling through the dirt, she found her way to the main road, barefoot and shaking. A group of recyclers saw her first and ran, thinking she was an impandalo, a ghost. But one of them returned. A woman. She covered Thandai in her jacket and called an ambulance. She was taken to a clinic in Diepkloof. The nurses thought she wouldn't speak again, the bruising on her throat was severe. But her eyes told the story. And when her voice returned, so did her fire. She told everything. The threats. The attempt. The whispers. She showed them the audio she had begun recording secretly. She handed over Mandla's burner phone, which she had taken weeks before as suspicion grew. The police moved quickly. Mandla was arrested at a B&B in Mpumalanga, in bed with another woman. He didn't fight. He didn't speak. He just stared. The trial made headlines. The media called her, the woman who rose from the grave. Mandla's defense collapsed under the weight of the evidence. Audio. Phone records. Her injuries. In court, Thandai testified with clarity. Her voice, though raspy, was unshakable. The judge sentenced Mandla to life imprisonment. No parole. As the guards led him away, he looked at her. Not with anger, but disbelief. As if he still couldn't accept that she had survived. That she had outsmarted him. Back at home, Thandai returned to her life. The construction site. Her tenants. Her journal. But she was no longer the same woman. She had been to the edge of death, and chosen to live. And though the night still brought shadows and her sleep was often broken, she stood tall. Not just as a survivor, but as a warrior. A woman who played dead, and came back stronger.